Hello friends, welcome back to the craft room. I am really glad that you're here. Our mystery stitches party yesterday was so fun and it was so awesome. I'm so glad that we were able to play that game, but I'm also really ready to get back to sewing. This is the quilt block we're going to do today. It is Night Stars by Quilty Love. This is actually the block that Megan made for her mystery stitches block. And I just loved it so much. So she told me what it was and I immediately bought it and probably made 6 blocks that same night. So I don't know if I should have told you that or not, but I really like it. It's really easy to put together and it's such a gorgeous block. And we will get to that, but here's a look into this brain of mine. We may regret this later. I was prepping some squares because I ran out. And then I put my scraps up in my bin, like I usually do. And then my green stack was like teetering. It's that full. It's going to fall over into one of the bins. I need to get rid of scraps. But every time I do the scrap busting quilt tops, the scraps always come back, even if they've been busted. I'm just really good at refilling and not as fast as emptying. You know what I mean? This is a 2-pound bag of scraps. You've got fabric from each of my buckets up there. So you've got a rainbow of scraps in here. And I thought, why would someone buy a bag of scraps? But then I thought, we are going to make this quilt together. Surprise! This has been probably the most requested pattern. It's crazy how many of these I send out a day. So I figured it warranted doing a video. So if you are wanting to make this bag of scraps would be perfect for that. I know that each one of the little bits in there would fit somehow in this star. Some of them are cut up into smaller squares, but I really do feel like they would fit this quilt top. So here's my proposition for you. Will you help a sister out who's drowning in her scraps, who's not a good scrap buster? Would you be interested in a bag of scraps? So 2 pounds is kind of like, what does that even mean, right? For reference, I just sent out a Buttoned Up Quilt Kit. So that is 10 half yards, so 5 yards, and then a little over 2.5 of the background fabric. So you're looking at like 7.5 yards, and it weighed 2 pounds and 10 ounces. So you definitely don't have 7 yards of fabric in there, but that is like a solid bag of scrap. So I probably have enough to make 3 and then still have enough to make another scrappy star. Like it's that out of control over here. Judge me quietly, please. So I'm going to list 3 of these up in the shop. We'll see what happens. And we're going to let it ride. So this one is coming. Spoiler alert. We are going to be doing this pattern together. And that would be an excellent accumulation of bits. Unless you're like a hoarder like me and you're drowning in scrap bits. So I don't know. We're going to have to start a support group or something. Okay. That was my thought process, but I'm done talking about it. It'll just be scrap grab bag. That's what we're going to call it. 30 bucks. And you get a lot of stuff in there. And it doesn't even dent it. That just blows my mind. Okay, let's get into these quilt blocks. Here is a close-up of that pattern. This is another Quilty Love pattern. We've done a few, huh? Oh, I covered it up. The heart quilts down there. And then we did the scrappy hearts. This one has half stars in it. So I need a half star for there and a half star for there, but we're going to work on a whole block today. This one is very easy to batch piece, which I like a lot. So I've done a lot of pieces beforehand, so that way when I need them, I just pull them and make one block at a time. And it actually goes pretty quickly that way too. But we're going to do it start to finish. First up, we are going to make these corners right here. We've got the light green with the dark green. We're using Around the Block Sage today. We're using this solid green. I I think it's called pistachio. Or maybe it's rosemary. I don't remember. But it's the only solid green I have in my shop, so I guess there's that. I'm using the Doors low volume print for my star. And then for the purple star in the middle, I'm using this one. So the Around the Block and this purple, we made the hourglass block with for Moda Blockheads. And I love that purple so much that I went to Joann's while I could, and I got a big chunk of it. And then I even have another big chunk of it over on my shelf over there. So I probably have enough to share if anyone's interested. I'm just seeing if I stashed any away in the purple bucket, but I think it is so pretty. It's a bummer we won't be able to get it anymore. So here we go. We're going to make the corner. We have a light green square and a dark green square. And then we've got our strip across the top. So we will sew our 2 squares together and then combine that with the strip. And we're going to repeat 4 times. There we go. Those are pretty easy. I didn't feel like we needed to actually walk through it together. So we're going to put those off to the side because we are done for now. Now we're going to work on the white star points and this kind of diamond up here. We are going to make some half square triangles with our greens. So I've got 2 light greens, 2 dark greens. We're going to sew them right sides together. And this is the 2 at a time method. So I'm going to need to draw a diagonal. I feel like I lose something every time. Oh my gosh. On my sewing machine. Why didn't I think of that? Oh my gosh, I was so worried about the scraps. All right, drawn a diagonal on that dark one. We'll draw one on here. Again, put right sides together. So now we're going to sew a 1/4 inch to the right and a 1/4 inch to the left of that line so that we can cut it in half when we're done. Let me get through that and then we'll catch back up. There are my stitches on both sides. I've already cut that one in half. Now let's cut this one together. And then that will give us 4 half square triangles. Is that all I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then I cut them in half. Okay. I figured it out much quicker that time than I expected. I'm going to go iron these open and then we'll go on to the next step. And there we have those. This one is pretty cool because we're not going to trim them just yet. I can't think of what they're called. There's a special name for them. Come on, instructions, help me look like I know what I'm doing. 1/4 square triangles, that's what we're looking for. So we are going to take our half square triangles here. We're going to grab 4 backgrounds, and this is what I was talking about, cutting them in half. I really should have drawn my diagonals beforehand. So worried about the scrap bag. I've lost all control. Let me draw diagonals real fast. All right, so I have all of those diagonals in there, one corner to the other. Now we're going to put these right sides together. So if my diagonal is going top to bottom, I'm going to rotate these triangles so that their seam is going intersecting. We're going to line those up as best we can, and then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch again to the right and to the left. So there we have both of those seams. My greens are just a little bit smaller than the white, but that is okay because we are going to trim these when they're all done. We'll work on this one together and then I'll finish up the rest. But now we're going to cut on that diagonal. And there we have 2 1/4 square triangles. I'm never going to remember that. I don't even know why I'm frustrated. But then what's really cool is after we iron these open and we trim them, you can see right there, there's our 2 white points, and there is our dark green diamond right in the middle right there. Isn't that cool? Let me breeze through the rest and then we will move on to our purple stars. And there we have those nice and ironed open. Conveniently, all of these ones are trimmed to what we need, and we only have to work on this one together. That worked out really well. Okay, this is how I trim these. And I was thinking, how would you do this if you didn't have a 4.5 inch ruler? So these need to be trimmed down to 4.5 inches, which fortunately, I literally have that ruler. So I'll walk you through that one, but I kind of wonder, this one's a little bit bigger. How could we get the size that we need with a bigger ruler? Oh, well, that's helpful because this one has a 45-degree X in it. So that's pretty helpful. But then again, you're going to have to help me with how you would trim this if you did not have a 4.5 inch ruler. So help me out with that one. Well, and help everyone else out too, because I don't know that. So in the comments, let me know how you would trim these to get them nice and square and even if you didn't have the right size of ruler or the same size ruler that you just needed, okay? For mine, I'm going to line up again my seam with the big angle right through the middle. And then I'm going to line up the corner of my ruler right in the middle of this seam of the greens. I'm going to take a picture of it so I can show you. So you can see here that the middle line is put right there, and then the corner of my ruler sits right in the middle of those seams. That's just making sure that I am even in trimming my triangles. So you can see that we're going to trim more dark green off than the light green. But that's okay because I know for sure that I will have equal triangles. We're going to trim the right. Oops, it moved. No! And then trim the top. Rotato, potato. And repeat. But now we can just line up those edges with the ruler. And since we used the half or the line down the middle in the first place, it just should all line up. Trim the right. Oh my gosh. I'm all over the place today. You're so lucky. Get to witness this firsthand. Hope you brought some popcorn. There we go. And there we have all of those squares trimmed to 4.5. So, I think 9 times out of 10, I can use my 4.5 ruler for trimming, which is crazy because I'm not like deliberately choosing 4.5 inch squares. But that's a pretty common size. And so just like I showed you before, these points are just now going to meet together in the middle, and we're going to make 4 sets of these. That just reminded me. I have to show you this because you wouldn't believe me otherwise. Unintentionally, look at this pattern right here on top. Oop, pause for kid call. Hello? There we go. Now we can get back to it. Right here, I lost my train of thought. That pattern almost lined up. And if I would have told you that I would have done that, you'd have been like, oh no, Kate, you're not put together enough for that. But I did it on accident. I may have lost Bob and Chicken earlier, but I accidentally put those 2 together. I'm going to sew all of these together and then we will iron those seams open because we're going to have some bulk here. So I'm going to try to alleviate that as much as possible. I'll see you in a sec. Lightning almost struck twice. Almost. There's that seam ironed open like I said. So I think it's just this bottom and this top where those points meet. It just helps it lay a little bit smoother. So personal preference. Let's make some flying geese for our stars. I don't need that. We're pros at flying geese at this point, aren't we? We've got, well, I guess I just need one, huh? I'm so used to making these in batches. So I've got my purple smaller squares with the diagonal down the middle. We're going to line the first one up in the top of that big background square. And then we're going to add the second one down at the bottom. Set it in that corner really nicely. And we want those diagonals to line up, and they do pretty well. So 1/4 inch to the right seam and 1/4 inch to the left. See you soon. That was just so quick. I wonder if we even needed to do a transition. Here's my seams on either side of those lines, or that line. We're going to trim that right on the diagonal. Let's go iron these open and add the other squares. All ironed over. We got this funny shape. I'm going to grab our other 2 purple squares. And same concept, we're going to line it up with that corner. And we're going to sew on either side of that diagonal. Let's snap this time. Here's your daily reminder that I am just so magical. I'm really good at making everyone uncomfortable. We are going to trim right on that line, and that will give us our 4 sets of flying geese. We're going to go iron these open, and then we will trim. We're so close. So what would you call flying geese if you only needed one? Is it the points that make it multiple? Like, are the points the geese? Kind of makes you wonder. So if I needed multiples, then it makes sense to say flying geese. I need 4 flying geese. But if I only needed one, I don't know what pattern only calls for one. But I think I would call it the mighty goosen. Yes, I do know that that is not the singular form of geese. Goosen is not a word. I may be bad at math, but words are my jam. So the mighty goosen. We're going to trim these down to 2.5 by 4.5. When we're trimming our geese, we want to make sure that we have the 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. This is where I feel like it's most important to start from. So start from the bottom, make sure you can get what you need, and then trim the rest from there. So we're going to line that up, and I'm going to eyeball this line right here, and we are going to trim off that excess. There's really not a lot to trim off of this. We're going to trim off our little tails there. Rotate, and now that we have a nice line, we're going to trim again. And that was literally just the tail. Okay, let's do the rest. And there we have our flying geese. 2 of these are going to get our side squares, one of our backgrounds. And then 2 of these are going to connect to our big purple middle. In the picture on the pattern, they have, why did I make this star this wonky? It's like I'm just asking to lose pieces. In their pattern, they have 2 different colors for that center star. You see that they have a light yellow and then a darker yellow, which I think is so cute. So when I do this pattern again, which I will, I really like it that much. It's the stars, I'm sure. I think when I do it again, I will do the different colors. But I knew for this one, I just wanted that purple to stand out as much as possible. And it is so good. All right, you know the drill. We're gonna sew the 2 squares onto this piece, sew the points to our middle, and then again with the bottom, sew our squares to the ends. I really hope that was the right transition. I actually forgot what I did. I couldn't remember if it was the snap or the magic finger. I'm pretty confident it was the magic finger, but if not, then surprise! I do what I want. Let's put this block together. And it's actually the same construction that we just made, because this is a giant star in itself, right? So we've got 2 pieces going on the sides of the star to make the middle. Oh, stop doing that to yourself, Kate. Okay. Be reasonable. There we go. Look, it's on the table. How exciting. And then we're going to take our corner pieces from the very beginning. You can't see it that well, huh? And then the dark square just goes into the corner there. Ta-da! There's our star. Again, same exact assembly. Square to middle, and then last square makes a row, then middle row, then bottom row. Quilters, assemble! Did that work on your end? Do you have a finished block sitting in front of you? It kind of looks just like this. I tried. Here we have our finished block. Is that not so gorgeous? I love this so much. And I know that I said a lot, I'm not a big fan of purple, and I'm not. But I love this purple in this green block. I think it is so pretty. I love it. So I think for me, I'm going to make this a square. So I'm going to finish 4 blocks in this one and then have another little row of 3 with 2 halves. And it's going to be a nice big square. We're winging it. We're figuring it out as we go. I know you all are surprised, but that's how it's happening today. Friends, it was so good to sew with you again. It's like a breath of fresh air. On Thursday, we get to work on, there you go, finger, buttoned up. So if you're interested in any of this fabric, it is listed in my shop, but there is the quilt kit still available and the pattern is still available. I love already how it's coming together. It's going to be such a cute quilt top. So until Thursday, friends, we will see you. Bye.